Okay, we're going to test this little alternator now. I'll show you what's going on now. I've got a chart here with RPM, volts, amps, watts. If I wanted to, I could add another column here for torque, but we're not going to get into it, but I'll show you how I would do it. It's not really necessary because we know stator resistance on this is about 3 ohm or 3.5 ohm per phase. So I'm going to put it in the mill here. The milling machine has adjustable speed. I can start at 100 and go up to 500 without shifting gears, and that may be all the higher I go, but we'll see. I'm just going to show how I set this up though. I do not want it falling out. Now if I was going to measure torque, which could be kind of a thing at higher RPM, or if I put a battery on this. Things are very different when I check with the battery. This is exactly 1 foot from the spindle. Everything's a right angle here, and I've got a spring scale that I can put here to hold the alternator from spinning. Like there. And if this is a right angle, and this is 1 foot, then I'm measuring foot-pounds. So if I know RPM and foot-pounds, I know exactly how much power is going into the shaft. I think it's RPM times torque, which is foot-pounds, divided by 5252, so 5,252 gets you horsepower. And 1 horsepower equals 746 watts. So it's kind of a redundant thing, but that's one way to measure efficiency. Another way to measure efficiency is just knowing stator resistance and measuring current, what you're getting out, and it's easy to calculate what is being burned up in the alternator and wasted as heat. So here I've got a 3-phase rectifier. There's a schematic for it, just 6 diodes. This will convert my 3-phase AC into direct current. And the reason I'm doing this, even though I'm just measuring with a resistor right now, is to get it down to 2 wires so that I can measure it with 1 decade box. Another consideration though, especially when power output and voltage is low, there's a voltage drop across this of about 1.4 volt. So whatever I read here, I'm wasting power in this, and I can multiply 1.4 times the current, and that's how much power is wasted in this as a little heater. So I got 2 wasted heaters going on. One is the alternator, 3 ohms, and one is this with the 1.4 volt drop. So I'll hook up the rectifier. Yeah. Binding the screw cable up. Okay, rectifier's hooked up. I'll zero the amp meter. And I'm looking at DC volts and DC current. And we'll start at 100 RPM. Like I said, I don't expect to see any measurable torque in this, not on that scale. At least it's holding the alternator from spinning out. So here I've got volts, and no measurable current. Oh, there's another thing going on here. We'll try this again. Okay, I'm basically open circuit here. I've got the decade box set up. The way this decade box works is I can adjust all these resistors. Right now I'm at 999 volt ohms. So that's almost like open circuit. So at 100 RPM, I got 5.2 volts, open circuit. I'll bring it down to 99 ohms. So now you can see the voltage drop off a little bit. And I picked up about 0.02 amps. Now I'll come down to, you can watch the meters. The voltage will drop. There's 29 ohms. And now I'm at about 0.12 amps. So I'm going to go right to 30 ohms, and we'll play at 30 ohms for a little bit. The stator is about 3.5 ohm. So we're in the ballpark here of 90% efficient, meaning 90% of the power is going into the load, 10% is wasted in the alternator. And actually at this voltage, about 20% is wasted in the rectifier. But what we're getting now is about 0.1 amps at 4.4 volts. So about half a watt. I'll bring it up to 200 RPM. And close to 0.3, 0.25 I'll say. See what we get at 300 RPM. 0.3. I had to stop the test because the problem I'm having is the whole machine is coming down and sliding on the shaft. So I gotta fix that. Then I'll get some numbers and I'll share those numbers. Okay, we solved the problem with the moving shaft, I think. I had another 4-inch disc I drilled out with the same bolt pattern, so I just made an adapter to grab it by the 3 studs that are made to hold the blade on. So I'm going to look at 300 RPM again. So reset the meters. And we're still at a 30 ohm load. DC volts. Let's see what we get. 300 RPM. Well, that's impressive. 0 volts. Oh. There we go. There's some torque here. I'm actually having to hold it down. So 13.7 and half an amp. .7 and 0.5. So that's pretty cool. That's over 6 watts at 300 RPM. I do have to hold this vise now. It's very noticeable torque on it. I wish we could still have the spring scale because I have a feeling that at 500 RPM it would come into play, but... Okay, I'll run up to 400. .3 and 0.7. And we'll run up to 500. .3 and 0.9. Now all I have to do is multiply these numbers to get watts. Now we're going to test at 15 ohms, so half of what we had before. And here we go, 200 RPM. So about 8.6 and 0.55. So almost double the power with half the resistance. I'll bring it up to 300 RPM. So 12 volts and 0.8 amps. So that's pushing 10 watts. Rough math in my head. Bring it up to 400. 15.8 and 1 amp. We'll call it 16 and 1. So that's 16 watts. Before we were getting 12. And this is because of I squared R and Ohm's law. The losses in the stator are increasing exponentially. We'll go to 500 RPM. 20 volts and 1.3 amps. So at the 30 ohm load, we were getting 20 watts, and here we're only getting about 26 watts. So the efficiency is declining rapidly at this point, but it's good. It's I won't test it higher than this because the decade box doesn't want to see over 1.5 amps on this dial. Down here we could play with 5. I could zero this out, I guess, and go further, but you get the point. We could calculate all this just knowing open voltage and the resistance of a phase. This is kind of a redundant thing, as is the spring scale. There are a lot of redundant things we can do, and hopefully all the numbers line up, but we could pretty much do it all on paper if we just have an ohm meter and a voltmeter.
Nope.
Oh, is that my meter beeping?
Yeah.
That was my meter saying we're done for the night. Anyhow, there's the numbers, a couple of graphs. I have a feeling it would go up this way if I had the nerve to run it faster, but I'm afraid magnets will fly out or something. It'd be fun. Next video we'll put the windmill together and probably test it on the front of a vehicle, or yeah, maybe we'll get it on the front of the Baxter out there. I built the whole windmill, and that's one reason I don't want to break it yet. And we're going to build a little tower for it.